Hey YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. And today it's going to be a special video because I'm going to be talking about my coming out story, which is something I usually don't like to talk about. I even tried to type it out, which is what I'm going to read to you from. And I wasn't able to get all the way through it because there's just so many details about it that it just becomes tedious and kind of overwhelming, because you see a lot of YouTubers, or you see a lot of the positive YouTube stories, and mine isn't bad, but it isn't positive either. So that's also kind of a reason I don't like to talk about it. Like, if I was going to talk about it, it's either going to be here, but in this format, or with somebody that I care enough about to tell in full the story, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to try to get through this as painlessly as possible before my camera either dies or runs out of time. So here we go. I get scared to tell my story. How to explain a story where you were underage the first time you had sex. Being 17 with a 28-year-old. I want to tell my story, but most days it's hard to remember and keep all the details in order because it encompasses so much. I guess the first time I even came in contact with the word was when I was in grade school. Like, I was really little. And I was in Catholic school, and we were going from class to art or something, and this kid Scotty stopped me, and I was the caboose of the line, and he said, "You're gay." And back then I didn't even know what that word meant, but it was also that moment that it questioned if I was normal or not. Then over the years, my family went through some stuff, and before everything finally went down, we moved to a house, and it was a nice house. And I was in maybe 4th or 5th grade, and there was a bridge to my room that I got all to myself. And over the days, I made a friend with the kid to my right, and then an older high school kid to my left. I had been to one sleepover where we went to see hockey, and everyone at the party was getting hockey pucks. But I didn't. So I devised a plan to steal them, but I got caught and had to give them back. I don't think they liked me very much after that, and even at the sleepover, I didn't get that sort of feeling that I was into that kind of stuff. But the other boy next door, my memories of him are like a picture that has been in time so long it started to decompose, or maybe it's more of like smoke but some of the smoke isn't there. But at first, I met this guy because I had to go over one day because I forgot my key for school, or I forgot my key to the house when I left for school, and so I went over, and his mom came to the door, and I told her what had happened, and she called for her son to help me. So he came to the door, and we got over to my back deck, and he showed me how he was going to open the door with a card. He was using his student ID, which he took his time to tell me his name and how his last name would change, and the only thing of it I can remember today is the hyphen. But we would play soccer all the time, and then there was this one day he was sitting on his roof doing homework, and I just happened to be outside. I remember walking into the yard and picking up pine cones to throw up there, and it was funny because he went on about how he was going to fall. And then I think with enough pine cones, he ended up coming down off the roof to come outside with me, but like on ground, I guess. But I can't remember if this is the same day where the icebreaker guy came over and the boy next door started talking to a girl over the phone while riding a skateboard, and I even got to talk to her, I think, and I was going to describe how he looked, I was going to describe how he looked, but all I can remember is he was blonde and had shaggy skater hair. But that day when he was talking to his soon-to-be girl, I felt something, but now that I look back on it, I think it might have been a little kid crush jealousy, but I didn't even know what I was feeling then. And then, time later, the police had been called to the house because of my aunt and my cousin for some reason, and I slept through it, except when I saw the light in the windows and heard the yelling. So years later, I feel like if that didn't change things, then moving would. He had gone to college, and on the day we had come to the house to pack, but my mom had to work and I was sick. Like, I was ill. I couldn't be bothered to pack a single thing. I was miserable. And my mom came back and got mad at me for not packing. But I tried to remember my parents were going through it. And she even asked me if I wanted to say goodbye, and I got to tell her he's at college. And then we moved without even saying goodbye. And then we moved a lot and ended up in the same town we had moved before, and we would stay with one of the parents when the bus dropped us off. It was a gated apartment complex, but I knew the girl's daughter from school, and she had a brother on the football team. And the thing about the community is that it had a pool, and one day he was there at the pool, and I had noticed he was cute. I noticed he was cute before, but I wasn't able to tell what I was feeling. But that day at the pool, I was swimming under the water, and I saw his legs, and I really wanted to touch them, because they were hairy, and he was Mr. Football Player. So I did, and I came up out of the water, and he said, "What did you do that for?" And I didn't know why I did it, so I kind of played it off as tag and swam to the other end of the pool. That's the most significant part of this encounter, and we ended up moving into a nice, brand new model home. I had just turned 13 when I figured out what porn was, because I found myself on a day wondering what gay actually was, and I wanted to see boys kiss. At this point, there was this girl I was into, but she didn't like me like that, so I decided to give being gay a shot. I went to middle school, and I would get it from some people, and one day this guy in the cafeteria in the table behind mine asked, "Are you gay?" And I remember thinking about my debate of the porn and whether if I was into girls or if I was into guys, or if I was into both. And I just told him I was gay because I just wanted it to be over. Only then the taunts got worse. A time after this, I was home and the desktop computer was downstairs, and I wanted a taste of what it was like to talk to a gay guy. So I signed up for this site for my birthday, and over time I had gotten to know plenty of guys. I online dated my first boyfriend for a week, but he might have left because I asked him to marry me. But then after that, I met this guy, and he was in high school, and he was kind of cool. We would talk about witchcraft and heritage all the time. I even picked up my first Native American name because of him. And we ventured into new territory, and I was the one that had asked. I was the instigator in the situation, and what was to be, and even before this, I would finger and fuck and masturbate all the time, and I get pretty damn kinky, and I would have thought how cool my parents were if they eventually found out. They would be cool with it because I still had consented, or I still had to consent and have consent for everything me and him ever did. But the part I keep forgetting is that I would write down keywords I would find gay porn with on Google, which they found but managed a way to blame it on my brother. Sorry. Then one day I was in science and things just felt weird. And then after school, Mom had pulled into the pickup line. I smiled and waved, but she looked apprehensive, and I didn't even put on my buckle when she said, "We need to have a talk." And she had my brothers cover their ears, and they told me she'd been cleaning and accidentally pushed the push button on the computer and found everything. I wanted to jump out of the car. She said I was not to talk to him ever again, and that I could get in big trouble because I was underage. I got home and I just went and buried myself in the couch. What was I going to tell Dad? Dad came home and I had my brothers cover their ears, and I told him I was gay because he was wondering why I was buried in the couch, and he asked where Mom was, and I was just like, I'm gonna tell him. Might as well. He's gonna find out sooner or later. So I told my brothers to cover their ears, and I told him I was gay. And his response was, I will not have a gay son. Fuck. I ran into the downstairs bathroom so fast, and I just cried. I fucking cried. And eventually they called me into my room, which had the computer now, and Mom was deleting all of my accounts, but was struggling with my Yahoo account. And my mom opened my photos to him, and she scrolled down one of my full body nudes, and she stopped above my pelvis, and she said, I can't scroll anymore. That's disgusting. So I just sat there silent, watching Charmed. I was destroyed. Then days passed, and a few days later, I was home computerless, and I was listening to music in my room. And my mom came in and she told me to come downstairs. She had called the police on me. I didn't want my parents in the room when I was talking to this police officer. He was a guy, and he asked me a bunch of questions like if I was really gay, and other questions of this guy like, did I consent to it, blah blah blah. And then after my parents came back in, and this police officer told my parents everything when they came in. But he left, and this is the night I also told my parents I had been cutting for a while before that. Things weren't fine for a while. And then they got a little better, and I got on the chat site again when I got the technology, which was a mini netbook. I met Sean White, and we talked for a couple of months. He was a horse rider, and he was really cute, and we were together for a couple of months before my parents found out again and took my laptop and smashed it over the back deck railing. I had messaged my previous guy, and he broke up with me on Valentine's Day. This guy didn't even message me when I warned him my parents found out again. I never heard from him again, and my parents took the door of my room, or maybe they banished me to one of the other rooms, but I can't remember. But I can remember being in that room a little while later, just so being in that room a little while longer. Or what did I say? Remember being in that room a little while longer because I remember that I woke up one morning. But even before this happened, see, I told you this shit is hard to remember. The first day of high school, the first day of high school, the first class of the day, I sat on a column of baseball team boys. I was literally the only one in that column that wasn't a baseball team, or that wasn't a baseball player. And I just want to say his name because I thought he was cute. And I just want to say his name because I thought he was cute. His name was Derek. But gay boys don't fall for straight boys, right? So it was like my body took control. I could feel his energy fields on my face. I would wonder if I just dropped my hand close to his, would there be a stupid chance he would take it? Then one day there was fire drill, and that class went outside, and there was this kid whose brother my grandma babysat, and I thought I could trust him when he asked if I was gay. And I said, yeah, just let me come out gradually on my own time. Not a day later, the guy next to me during warm-ups asked me if I was gay. And I just froze because I liked him, and I didn't want to lose some fool's chance at maybe being a thing. But it didn't help when he looked at the guys in the back who were looking at us and started to laugh. I just spent 7th grade being bullied in class. I just didn't even think about it here. But then after that, someone slapped me with a Pop-Tart, called me a fag, but it wasn't too bad after that. I ended up locking him in a filing cabinet in my head accidentally years later. So I guess at this point in the story means it's more of a pushed out story rather than a coming out story. When I was dating the second guy, I wrote which is why I don't like talking about my coming out story, because there's so many details. I don't know how to concisely put them into a timeline other than like writing them out, because I feel like it's more like, especially in my situation, because I am gay but I also practice witchcraft, it's like I had to come out to myself in more ways than one. So like my whole life story is kind of my coming out story, or rather my outed story, which is why I don't like to talk about it also, because I got outed, I didn't get to come out. And you see, and I'm not like bashing the positive stories, like I genuinely enjoy the positive stories, because at least somebody out there is having these positive stories, which means that over time there's going to be more and more positive stories. It's just there's still some not so positive stories out there. So because I was probably 13, and because I've always wanted to do a coming out story, I thought that I would do this. It's not perfect, but I could manage. because I do not like talking about it. It's a really long story. Like, I could sit down for hours and talk about it. Like, there was just so much that went on. Like, this just scrapes the tip of the iceberg for it. But yeah, that is it for tonight's video. If you like this video, if you have any stories of your own, if you want to share new video ideas you would like to see me do, or if you just have a comment in general, then leave it down in the comments. And if you want to and you haven't already, then please do subscribe. I would appreciate it greatly. But yeah, that's it for tonight's video. Alright, bye guys.
I need to get my story straight. My friends are in the bathroom, getting higher than the Empire State. My lover, she's waiting for me just across the bar. My seat's been taken by some sunglasses, asking about a scar. And I know I gave it to you months ago. I know you're trying to forget, but between the drinks and soul things, the holes in my apologies, you know, I'm trying hard to take it back. So if the bar closes and you feel like falling down, I'll carry you home tonight.